Hello, and welcome to Positive Behavior Support's Day 2 webinar. Today we're going to talk about, we're going to do a little introduction into the person-centered planning. We're going to talk about the basic features of person-centered planning, preparing for a person-centered plan, how to do our first meeting, and follow-up and evaluations, and how are person-centered planning and positive behavior supports related. So the tiered model can be applied to both person-centered planning and positive behavior support. There are many similarities on how this is done. At the universal level, this includes all people, direct support professionals, people being supported, staff, administration, within an organization. This level is preventative. It's promoting and teaching these behaviors and incorporating these person-centered values for everyone, and in the organization, how the organization functions as a whole. The universal level is also about having a high-quality experience for everyone. In PBS, the universal may include practices like teaching and reinforcing social skills and database decisions, promoting teaching and reinforcing communication for everyone. Likewise, at the universal stage in person-centered planning, everyone is engaging and promoting person-centered thinking, encouraging self-expression, and providing meaningful integrated participation in the community. As people require more support and move up through the levels of the tiered model into the secondary and tertiary levels, it is important to remember that they are still to receive all this good stuff going on at the universal level. In that way, you can think of a tiered model less as separate sections and more as layers, meaning that if people require additional support at higher tiers, they get the support at that higher tier in addition to, not instead of, the universal practices. At the secondary level, for both person-centered practices and PBS, the intensity and the focus increases. This might include some simple small group or individual interventions, simple mental health interventions, the key being that these are simple interventions. The person will still receive everything they were receiving at the secondary level, and some will add additional supports or interventions. At the tertiary level, again, we just continue to build on what we have done at the universal and secondary levels, and we include more intensive supports. So at the tertiary level, this might include individualized positive behavior support plans, outcome measures, and teams monitor the progress of each person. We can't intervene without the universal and secondary level. At the universal level, it is a preventative versus an intervention. We want to focus on improving quality of life for everyone using both person-centered planning and positive behavior support. So the basic approach is that person-centered thinking leads to those person-centered practices, which makes our organization more person-centered, which makes the system more person-centered, which leads to person-directed lives, which is the whole goal in this process. Like we talked about on day 1, the core concept that we're focusing on in person-centered planning is that idea of important to and important for and the balance in between them. What is important to a person includes those things in life which can help us be satisfied, content, comforted, fulfilled, and happy. It includes things like people wanting to have relationships, having status and control, things to do and places to go, those rituals and routines that we enjoy, having a certain rhythm or pace to life, and the things that we have. This isn't just about individuals with disabilities, but this is about all humans. We all want to have relationships. We all want to have some status and some control in our lives. We all need these things in order to have an important and person-centered life. What's important for a person are things like health and safety, so prevention from illness, promotion of wellness, so having the right diet or engaging in exercise, being free from fear. And important for can also include what others see as necessary to help the person be valued and be a contributing member of their society. How important to and important for are connected? Well, they influence each other in important ways. No one does anything that is important for them willingly unless it's a piece of what's important to them. So if it's important to you to look a certain way. It might also be important for you to diet and to lose some weight. The balance is always changing and has to do with trade-offs. So things that are important to us and important for us, we're always balancing those two things. The service system is designed so that people can dream, but only within the services that we offer. Our goal is to use person-centered practices to allow them to dream, and we will build the supports around them, changing the service system rather than the person. What elements of the dreams are important to them? Our services can't do everything, but we can help to support individuals to fulfill their own dreams. Person-centered planning is also a tool for creating context. So it's a process-oriented approach. It's about the process rather than the outcomes. It's the process of the person being able to speak up and recruit their social network to aid in creating new context for them. It's the process of completing a plan. The process is individualized and can range in intensity from simple improvements to quality of life or intense transition plans. We want to focus on people and what they need to live a preferred life with a desirable future. And we want to have that on a continuum of intensity, planning first for simple improvements and then moving towards more intensive improvements as we need to. The plan is not an outcome. We're not fixing anybody. We're not treatment planning. This is an ongoing, continuous, fluid, and responsive process. It is a balance about what is important to and what is important for a person. And it's the focus on supporting a preferred lifestyle, not options or choices. Each of us wants to live where we're supported by and contribute to our communities. So here's a pyramid that kind of shows us the way that we can get to having our own dreams and our own journeys. If at that base level we're not healthy or safe on our own terms, as much as that means, so if we're not healthy and safe, we can't move forward into what is important to us in everyday life, or people to be with, or things to do, or places to be. If we're really sick, it's going to be hard to us to engage in that everyday life. So we first need to focus on that base level of making sure that everyone is safe and healthy. Then we can move up the pyramid to what is important to us in everyday life and the people we want to be with and the places we want to go. And once we have that, maybe we have the opportunity to try new things or to change jobs or to make changes to our life, which leads to having our own dreams and our own journeys. We're going to talk a little bit about person-centered planning and wraparound processes. It originated in the disability field, but it's useful for a lot of different people. So defining characteristics of person-centered planning. Meetings driven by the person. It's an important goal to empower the person to lead and make important decisions, and that the team members are chosen by the person. We want to build opportunities to experience respect and have community involvement. Some examples of team members could be, the members on support staff. It could be friends of the individual. It could be community members that they interact with. It could be professionals in school or work settings, along with family and peers. And it's important to make sure that individuals are allowed to have self-determination and to have that expression of their choices. We want to build up our natural supports. We want to tailor them so that we avoid a reliance on existing services. That might look like if an individual is really interested in softball and we know we have a staff member who is engaging in a softball tournament, maybe we make it so that that individual can go and watch that game. So we're looking at those natural supports as opposed to those existing services. We're building our goals and actions on the person's strengths, not on their deficits. We want to focus our immediate attention on optimal quality of life changes. Maybe that's long-term and short-term goals that we have to make improvements in quality of life. And we want to help the individual that we support develop and maintain significant relationships. And that means relationships not just with their family, but with other members of the community as well. Some strengths of person-centered planning is that it's very visual. We do a lot of drawing and do a lot of pictures, And these strategies reduces dependence on written and verbal information. There are different strategies that are available to individuals, and it helps to focus the team on the person as the lead during the meetings. Here are some different types of person-centered planning. You can find all of these resources on the mnpsp.org website. Essential lifestyle planning is a principal outcome in giving some power to the person and a voice in the present. It's shifting from power over to power with and bringing some order to the chaos. Picture of a life applies person-centered thinking and planning tools that are focused on helping people envision the life that they want in their community and their desired future. You could use MAPS, which is a series of actions to get from here to there, but you can see it's a very visual process. There's also PATH, which is a series of steps to get from where we are now to the dreams and visions we have for the future. And how do we action plan for how do we get from one place to another? So quality of life can be looked at in these different domains. There's the idea of emotional well-being, which is feeling empowered or experiencing positive emotions. Interpersonal relations, material well-being, so having the things that we want and meaningful employment. Personal development, so having opportunities for education or further education or different tools to learn about yourself. Self-determination, so learning to set personal goals and making those decisions about important life choices, like where am I going to live? Who am I going to live with? What do I want to do with my life? The physical well-being, so making sure that we're physically safe and well. Social inclusion, and then the rights of the person. Wraparound planning comes from the field of emotional and behavioral disorders and improves service coordination while we build on student and family strengths. So defining characteristics of wraparound planning. So what kind of support does the family or person need to be successful? Are they supports within the community? Are they supports within an organization? How do we build that scaffolding around the person to support them in their own community? We have goals that are created, both team-based and coordinated across family plans. The wraparound is a family-driven process that utilizes the strengths and needs of an individual and the family. And the processes are meant to be culturally competent. These plans are designed within a team-based context and are coordinated across agencies. We use natural supports as well as actual treatment. And it's unconditional. So if someone doesn't go to a meeting, we don't just cut off services, but instead we work to find those remedies and find out maybe why they didn't attend the meeting and how we could support them in attending meetings in the future. There's different wraparound and person-centered planning life domains. There are different steps involved in making a wraparound plan. So you have that initial conversation. You start meeting and talking about the strengths of the individuals. You come up with a mission statement. You identify those different needs that the individual may have across different domains. Then you want to prioritize those needs, deciding what's most important to the individual and what's most important for the individual, and making a list. Then we develop actions based on that list so that we can have an actionable plan to move forward. Then based on that action plan, you assign the task or solicit commitments, so have somebody commit to completing a certain task. And then you document, evaluate, and refine. There's a definite strengths to wraparound planning, so it's person and family driven. It focuses on improving that quality of life for the individual that you support. It focuses on systems change, so not just how do we change the individual, but how do we change the system that's working with that individual so that we can best support them with the care that they need. How do we improve service coordination across people so that we're not just working in individual silos of mental health and education and disability services, but instead coordinating our efforts and working together? Some basic features of person-centered plans. There's challenges and opportunities for creating person-centered plans. There definitely can be barriers that occur due to disagreements, and that can really highlight the importance of relationship building and having a good rapport with the individual that you're supporting. Make sure that you establish strategies to evaluate and monitor progress, not just making plans, but instead determining what are the measures or the outcomes that we want, and how do we plan for that and measure that so that we can see the change that is occurring. And avoiding that learned helplessness. We want to focus on building an ideal life, going beyond black and white thinking. So break down the dream, not just what are the person's dream for a better life. So maybe that's, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a movie star, or I want to be a nurse. But how instead we can brainstorm ways to understand that core dream. What is it that's underlying that dream? What context best meets the dream in the best way? And then we can build an action plan to meet that dream. So for example, if somebody says that I want to be a nurse, that's great. That's an awesome profession. So how can we support that individual who might not be able to go to nursing school to perform functions that are similar to a nurse? It could be that we help them get in and volunteer as a candy striper at a local hospital, or as an assistant to somebody who needs care. So those are just some examples of how we can make that dream fit. We want to adjust that person-centered planning to meet each person's needs. So while these meetings might take a long time, for some individuals that can be very stressful and overwhelming. So instead of having a full day meeting, we might have shorter, smaller, more consecutive meetings that all build on each other. The young man who has a history of negative experience in group meetings. So this example is not uncommon, where somebody, has a history of being talked about at a meeting, or being talked over and not being talked to. So instead, what we want to do is maybe adjust and have smaller meetings that are led by that person and people that that person trusts. So for example, it might be that the case manager and this individual, we'll call him Joe, and his mom are all going to meet together one-on-one with different people. Now, I understand this is definitely more time-consuming, but it's more person-centered, and it's going to help this individual feel more comfortable, and you're going to get more out of the meetings and get more useful information about what's important to and for that individual. So there's a handout that goes with this. We talk about the key elements in person-centered planning. So we want to prepare for the pre-meeting. Then there's a first team meeting. There's that meeting process. Then from that meeting process, we want to develop an action plan. We want to use that action plan in follow-up meetings. We want to come up with measures so that we can determine whether that action plan is being followed. And then we want to prepare a written plan. And then that just all circles back around, and we continue to have these meetings and improve the quality of life for an individual. When we're preparing for and modifying plans, it's the experience of person-centered planners who help to integrate elements across methods. We're preparing for the process is an essential part of the person-centered plan. It's not a one-time event. It's a process that's continuing and moving forward and always changing. So why integrate person-centered strategies within PBS? So person-centered planning is an important first step for developing positive behavior support plans. It may even decrease the need for a behavior support plan. Sometimes we can get through the person-centered planning and it can address some or all of the challenging behavior concerns others may have had. The information gathered in a person-centered plan can then be used to build into the FBA if it's needed, and it will save time on that PBS plan because we already know a lot of the functional strengths of that individual. A person-centered plan helps to articulate what is important to and what is important for a person. So the more information and contextual information we can gather that details about family strengths and needs, communication and social skills assessment, so how that individual may interact with others, All of this information contributes to the functional behavior assessment. We need to know about the strengths of the individual and where they perform well in order to know how we could build off of those strengths in teaching moments so that we can have the best laid plans for our positive behavior support plan. You might want to consider each quality of the life domain and assess what domains are addressed from person-centered planning goals. Are there missing domains? Is there something that hasn't been addressed yet but might be added in the future process? And we want to review quality of life data regularly. The person-centered planning team includes other practices and recruits facilitation from positive behavior supports, dialectical behavior therapy, and trauma-informed practices. You might create a team to monitor person-centered plans and PBS and assess the skills within your organization. Do you have a person-centered planning coach? Do you have a PBS facilitator? Are they combined? Are they one person? Are they two people? And how will those two individuals collaborate? I can't stress this enough. PBS is not used to fix people, but instead it's a strategy for changing how we support others and encourage positive social interactions. So I have a brief video I want us to watch.
What is positive behavior support? Sometimes things just don't go my way, and nobody seems to get what's going wrong for me. And if I try to get my message across, bam!
You get labelled with a behaviour of concern.
Positive behaviour support could help.
Alright, so we're not going to watch the video right now, but I encourage you to take the time to watch this video because the sound isn't working right now. So I want to encourage you to watch this video, follow the link, and take that time to watch the video on your own time. So important to and important for are connected. They influence each other. No one does anything that is important for them willingly unless it's a piece of what is important to them. So the goal is to integrate planning, so that person-centered planning and positive behavior supports to make sure that the plans address both what is important to and what is important for them. We want to create a plan for what we need to do to make those changes. So choice has boundaries. There is no unfettered choice. Being person-centered does not mean giving someone everything they want. Question is always going to be, what are the boundaries and how do we set those up? So the answer is impacted by many factors. So it could be laws, it could be the values that we have, it might be the resources, it could be the ripple effect, so how that choice might impact others in their community or in their lives. It might have to do with factors like personal safety or public safety. So we can't do certain things because it's against the law. We can't do certain things because it will be unsafe to those around us. So the question is always, how do we balance those boundaries? So remember again, it does not mean giving someone everything they want, but instead giving them what they want within reason. And with that, I want to direct you to our person-centered practices on mmpsp.org for more examples, and look at the training materials at the bottom of the page for more information. Thank you, and have a great day.